to welcome to our third of 3 senior speaker series. Today we are going to be talking about how it will be okay and staying resilient during your career search. Before we get started and before I introduce our amazing panel, I am putting a link into the chat right now that I would really encourage all of you to copy and paste and put into your browser and bookmark right now. And I'm going to share my screen and show you what the link goes to. So it goes to the Career Design and Development, My Widener, and it specifically goes to this new tab that we created on our website called Senior Hub. So this is kind of the hub for all of our seniors or job seekers at the moment with everything that's going on. We just wanted to create kind of a space for you to go to learn about how to successfully job search during this time and to gather information and resources to help support you along that journey. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things on here before we got started. First of all, on the Senior Hub, right here is a link to senior walk-in hours. So we have senior walk-in hours every Wednesday, which is today from 1 to 3 p.m. And you can just click right here on this link and it'll take you to the Zoom room. I happen to be on walk-ins today, so we'll get to hang out even more if you're interested in going to walk-ins. And during walk-ins, you have about 15 minutes or however long to just ask any kind of career questions that are on your mind. So in addition to that, also on this Senior Hub, we have the links to the recordings of each of the sessions that we've done for the Senior Speaker Series right here. We have additional recordings to workshops that we've presented in the past. So the 3 are LinkedIn, resume, and cover letter. Scrolling down a little bit more, there is an ongoing list of job search resources here on the left and a list of virtual career fair and networking opportunities here as well. So please bookmark this page. Again, the link is in the chat, and just kind of maybe add this into your routine, which we're going to start talking about in a few minutes, but just to check back at this resource because it is updated pretty regularly. So with that, I am going to stop this screen share, and I would like to take a minute to introduce our panel that we have here with us today. So again, this is the It Will Be Okay, Staying Resilient During Your Job Search Senior Speaker Series. This is session number 3. And today we have with us Dr. Jen Horowitz, who is a psychologist here at Widener, and she is also the director of our Counseling and Psychological Services Office. And in addition to Jen, we also have Mary Rourke, who is also a psychologist. She is an associate professor of clinical psychology, and she is the director of our Institute for Graduate Psychological Studies.
Adult psychology, yep. Long title.
Welcome to Jen and Mary, and my name is Lauren Barlow. I'm a senior career counselor here at Widener, and in addition to myself from my office, I also have my executive director, Dr. Janet Long, and Janet will be manning our chat box. So we are going to take all of your questions and answer them towards the end of our presentation today, but if you have any questions from this very second to the end, just drop them into the chat box and we will get to them once we ask Jen and Mary a couple of questions to get started. So my first question for our esteemed psychologist here is, and Jen, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Mary, but could you guys do me a favor and just define resiliency for us and maybe give us some tips that you might like to share in order to help students and job seekers remain resilient at this time?
Absolutely, thank you. And just want to thank everyone for offering this and for having this available. And certainly as questions come up, we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have. And so in thinking about resiliency and thinking about managing difficult challenges as we're currently facing right now, the way I look at it is truly having some level of flexibility and the ability to adapt to situations when they are difficult. So truly we're looking at how well can we manage in light of challenging times to be able to revise what we were doing, to reconsider something that we're doing, to make changes and face in light of adversity, and to keep making plans to move forward. When we see people who are struggling and people who are getting stuck, that's where we start looking at those resiliency skills and trying to figure out what we need to do to continue that movement. And so that's what I'm thinking about when I see resiliency. So it's really that, how am I going to adapt now in light of this difficult time? How do I keep moving forward?
Thank you.
Yeah, do you want me to jump in on this one as well, or?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I agree exactly that that resiliency is less about like staying happy and settled and calm throughout hardship. It's more about recognizing, yeah, this is hard. I'm having a hard moment right now, and being able to go back and revise your plan and be flexible, as Jen said. I really think too, that we have to balance our flexibility with some routine, right? We don't want to get stuck in our routine, but one of the things we know is that when we have a routine, we're just much better able to calm ourselves and stay focused on doing some problem solving about where are the places we might change things up. And routines are not so hard, right? Our old routines might not work, but our new routines might. So maybe just having a plan for what your day is going to look like, what time you get up, when you have your meals, when you start doing your job search activities, and when you turn them off and do something else for the day. Having some kind of structure allows us to be flexible in the moments when we can.
Thank you, Mary. You both brought up really good points. Addressing that during this time in life, it's really, it is a difficult time, and it's nice to kind of touch on that and be aware. As that relates to your job search, just kind of being aware that, the job search that you had planned to do maybe 6 weeks ago might look a little bit different now. Your timeline might be a little bit longer. The ability of your network to get back to you might take a little bit more time, because people are trying to just deal with life before they can deal with the job search. But Mary, I liked your tip too about, maintaining a routine, also leaving room for flexibility, but possibly, if finding a job is your goal at this time, adding some job searching into your routine could be something that helps you with achieving that goal, but also to give you time in your day, from 11 to 12 every day, I'm going to do something that has to do with my job search. There, you have a routine. So thank you both. My next question is, what are some helpful strategies to use when you're trying to stay calm during a stressful job search? And Mary, I'll start with you this time, and then we'll go to Jen.
Yeah, I think of two different categories of strategies, and one is really about mindset. So one set of strategies is really paying attention to how you're thinking about the endeavor of finding a job, right? So step one would be really focusing on and acknowledging the things that are outside of your control and just looking them square in the face. Sometimes we just need to acknowledge, these are the things that I have no control over. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a stay-at-home order. Other people are going to be less responsive to me because they're dealing with the same things, right? Just acknowledging those things. And then focusing on the things that you can control. I can every day from 12 to 1 do my job search. I can send emails. I can reach out. I can work on my resume. I can have conversations. I can network in these ways, and really focus on the things that are truly within your control. And if you do those two things, you're really focusing on your mindset and staying positive. Those are sort of resilient ways to move yourself through the process. The other set of strategies is really just about keeping yourself calm. It's so easy to get really worked up and really worried about things that we don't have a lot of control over. And if you feel that happening, it really is helpful to think about, what are the things that calm me down, right? One deep breath can do an amazing job of calming you down. And so I really advise everybody, if they start to feel themselves getting worked up, to stop, take a moment, take a deep breath, and really think of that as just slowing yourself down and staying focused on the things you can control.
Thank you, Mary.
Those are great strategies. And one of the things in talking about mindset, Mary, that you were mentioning and I was thinking of, is a large component of when we're doing any sort of job search or when we're thinking about any sort of routine that we used to do, we have this set of expectations running through our head and our background, how things should be, how they should be going. I should be progressing in this length of time, and I should have this many successful outreaches, and I should be connecting to this many people. And while those routines, those ideas may have been beneficial a month ago, 6 months ago, as things were progressing, I think right now it's also being very kind to ourselves to challenge those expectations and really bring them down to a much more realistic level, in the sense that, as has already been mentioned, it might take more time for people to reach back and respond to a call, to an email, to a text in that way. It might take more time to think about what other possibilities are going to be out there. We might also need to expand what we were initially thinking about in terms of our initial job search. Some jobs, some industries are going to shoot and skyrocket in ways that were unpredictable. Some of them might alter. So how do we expand what those ideas were and really adapt with what's happening right now? So I think really reevaluating what our expectations are is really a critical part of our mindset, bringing them down, keeping them much more simple. And again, keeping it realistic. We're not going to find a job in a day, 2 days, in a week. And we're certainly not going to be able to do that. If we spend 8 hours today looking, it's not going to help us anymore as if we put that through over the course of 1, 2, 3 weeks. And so we have to really look at that, because then it allows us to have time to really pause and reflect and de-escalate some of the stress and anxiety and pressure that we're feeling.
Jen, I really liked how you said, as you're doing these things, to be kind to yourself. I think especially when we're in a situation where it's time to be looking for a job, right? This is the developmental time when everybody who's graduating from college is looking for a job. We have these high expectations, and we also believe that everyone else is doing this and maybe even doing it better than we are, right? We're always worried a little bit about that. But it's really important to give yourself a little bit of leeway here, and also to remind yourself that everyone else is in the same position you're in, right? It's easy to lose track of that in our siloed quarantine places.
Thank you both. That's so true, especially the part that you were bringing up about, your job search at this time. For those of you that are seniors graduating, I would like to offer some calming kind of advice, and that is just that this job that you're going to get when you do get a job, which again, setting expectations, the timeline might take a little longer. This job that you're going to get is not the job that you're going to have 15 years from now. Even in real life, you probably wouldn't have this job for many, many years. It would be a stepping stone to get to where you ultimately want to be. And, you might not even know where you ultimately want to go, because you need to have this first experience in order to learn more about yourself in the professional world. So a calming thing is this job that you're getting after college doesn't have to be the end all be all. It doesn't have to be your dream job or your perfect job. It could just be a step in the right direction. And although everything is very stressful with the pandemic and the coronavirus, you can find a little bit of a silver lining here if you have to think a little differently about your search, to try and find a job that you are very happy to do and it's good enough for now. So again, it might not be the ultimate goal, but it is 100% something that's going to get you there, and it's something that is good enough for now and the time that we're in and the stage that you're in your journey. So just try and focus on that, and that can bring some calm too. You don't have to find your dream job tomorrow, and you wouldn't in normal times either. My next question for our group is, so we're talking a lot about kind of like having a routine, progressing towards a goal. So my question for you guys is, sometimes we just feel stuck. Like we have so many options. I just showed everybody a huge big list of resources. There's so much stuff out there to help us, but sometimes, when we're progressing towards a goal, we feel a little bit stuck. What tips could you both offer to help people get unstuck when they're feeling stuck during this time? And I forget who went first last time, but I think Jen, we'll start with you this time.
Sounds good. And so when we're thinking about ways to get unstuck, it's really important to have a sense of where that stuckness is coming from. So when I'm hearing that, what I'm imagining is getting stuck in that mindset, in those internal thoughts, in this dialogue of all these shoulds and expectations and comparisons to how other people are doing it and all of these ideas. And so sometimes it's really helpful in terms of getting unstuck to really step away from and gather some external feedback from people that you can talk to. You know, talk with other friends, talk with mentors, talk with family members to gain some perspective, to actually hear what it is that you're feeling you're getting stuck with, verbalize, articulate, communicate to someone what it is that's going on. And sometimes just the sheer act of doing that allows us to gain a little bit more perspective, to stop and kind of pause and reflect a little bit on truly how realistic some of those expectations sound. It also allows the opportunity for some other people to be able to question or either gently challenge, like, yeah, that sounds like you're really expecting a lot given the times and given what's happening. So it allows the opportunity for clarity, for feedback, for just a little bit more, again, that kindness where we can say, oh, yeah, that does sound a little bit unrealistic. Let me shift things a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I also think, you know, my grandmother always used to say, don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. I think sometimes when we get really stuck, we're really worried about things that are going to happen down the road a piece. I'll never get a job. No one's ever going to call me back, right? And when that happens, that really is paralyzing. And so it's really important to be able to recognize when it's happening, pull yourself out of that moment, right? You're worrying about tomorrow and get focused on today. What's happening right now? What can I do right now? Who can I talk to right now? And that very often helps us focus on the step in front of us, not the long-term outcome down the road. And I think that that can be a really helpful way to just unstick yourself.
Wonderful. And I think some kind of like career specific actions to get unstuck, which are like just very tiny. It could be, you know, going on LinkedIn and just scrolling through the feed and just kind of reading what's going on right now within your industry. It could be looking at your resume and updating your most current position, you know, whether it's a part-time job or a student leadership activity, but just updating that one little section on your resume. That's something that you can do right now. You know, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but it's something that got you unstuck and is moving you forward.
One of the things too that I think about in what gets us stuck is we try to continue doing things in the same way that we've always continued to do them in the past. And especially in times like these, we really have to shift that around. And we really have to expand on this idea of, well, I've always done it this way. Yeah, but this is a very, very different situation. And so we have to be sometimes creative, sometimes being willing to step outside our comfort zones. Really, perhaps we need to make more connections with other people in those industries. Perhaps we need to expand what we thought this job search was going to look like to move us out of that sense of feeling so stuck and so worried about, well, this isn't working.
I always kind of imagine it when I'm stuck on something. I imagine like carrying an enormous like number of like fruits and vegetables, right? And sometimes it's just easier to drop them all and pick them up again in a different way, or maybe leave some of them behind, and then you can move forward a little bit easier. But yeah, whenever I get stuck on kind of anything, I always try and do the same things over and over again. It doesn't work, and then I just remember, I'm like, just drop it and just start again. And sometimes you get to the end result a little bit faster, even from starting from scratch. So thank you. All right, my next question is, what are some tips, or how have you both in the past helped students stay focused on achieving a long-term goal? So like this job search, it might not be something that happens in May. It might end up being, you know, a 6-month to 9-month process that you're going through. So, and you might not reap any benefits of this, achieving this long-term goal right now. So what are some strategies that you could offer to help students and job seekers stay on track?
Do you want me to jump in?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Mary.
No worry, no worry. You know, I think a lot of the tools we've been talking about will actually help folks stay on track. And I think one is breaking down a big goal into small doable pieces, right? And then building a routine in your life that allows you the time and space to address those small pieces one step at a time, right? I like what you were just saying, which is, there are small things you can do every day. It's a success if today you look at your LinkedIn profile, right? That's one thing you check off your list. Sometimes I think we get locked into this idea that the success will be getting the job at the end of the road. Well, that's an outcome, but there are lots of small successes along the way. And so just really knowing ahead of time, there are lots of successes: getting my resume done, getting an email out, getting a letter out, building my LinkedIn profile, checking this website and that website. And then if you have a time every day that, or every other day, whatever works for you, whatever works for your schedule and routine, that's dedicated to job searching, not only does that make sure you stay accountable to yourself, right? It keeps you moving through those steps. It also prevents the job search from taking over. If we're worried about a job search and we don't have a place to put it in our daily schedule, it bleeds over the whole day, and we worry about it all day long because it's not getting done. But if we attended to it from 12 to 1, like we said we would, then the rest of our hours are free and we can kind of put our worry aside during that time. Very often what gets us off track in pursuit of a large goal is worry about it. So setting up these practical steps can kind of keep us focused and keep that worry in check. So.
I agree with everything you just said, Mary. I think it is having the ability to break it down into steps to really, reimagine how we viewed progress before, and really allowing ourselves to know that this is going to take time, setting out some realistic expectations, but also allowing some time to have some other activities planned throughout the day, so you aren't burning yourself out in this process. So you aren't just investing all of your time and energy into this one thing where initially you might not see that reward. You initially might not see that positive response back. And so where will you have time to step away from it? What will you be doing to spend your time in enjoyable activities, engaging and connecting with other people, to balance the effort and time that you're putting into the job search as well? Sorry if you hear my kids in the background. And then also it's a practice of being patient, and continuing to persist even if we're not having those responses right away. We're not getting the positive feedback. We're not getting even a response at all, perhaps. That's okay. And that might be an expected part of what this job search is going to be like, but continue to do it and build those connections, build those resources. And when you feel yourself getting frustrated, step away, take that break, go engage in something else that gives you some reward, shifts that perspective of what you're doing.
I want to revisit, I agree with how Jen was just talking about this, and it reminded me of this concept of resilience. And all of the psychological literature on resilience tells us that we're more resilient if we've had lots of opportunities to fail, right? So, the old adage, that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger, has some basis in truth. And while we're not looking for big fails here, not getting a phone call back, not having a response to an email, having things take a little longer than you thought, those are all little moments perhaps of micro failure. Sometimes they feel that way, and being able to move toward them makes you a stronger applicant, and will pull you further towards success. That's part of resilience in this process, in any process, really.
Thank you both. I wanted to offer a small anecdote from my own personal job search. And over the course of my life. So when I was a senior in college, I graduated in 2008, which was significant to this story because it was probably the last time where the unemployment rate was pretty high. I graduated, I tried to get jobs. I went on interviews. I sent out 1 million resumes, and I was very unsuccessful at getting a job. And to my 21-year-old self at that time, it was the first time in my life where I felt like I had actually failed, like I had tried very hard and failed at something. And that was very upsetting to me. I wasn't in a very good place. And so like Jen said, sometimes kind of stepping away or doing something else is helpful while you're also doing something that might not be working out right now. And it's interesting, I'm a big runner. I ran in college, and one day after college, I decided, I'm going to train for a marathon, because I actually felt like it would be something that I would enjoy and be good at. I know that sounds like I have some sort of mental problem, but
not at all.
I knew it was something that would take up a lot of time and provide structure, And I assumed at the end I would be successful at it. So I thought it would make me feel good about myself. And I was lucky because it did end up being a very good process for me. And throughout that process, I started to draw, honestly, a lot of parallels between training for a marathon and job searching. So kind of like Jen was saying, and Mary was saying, you need to be persistent and you need to be patient in both scenarios. And, you know, small wins or small failures can be viewed as ways to move yourself forward. So I remember very specifically having a wonderful marathon workout and then like shifting my focus to the job search. And I did, at the time, I was looking to be a film editor. So I Googled film companies near me, and there was one in the town over. And I dressed up in like my little suit, and I grabbed my resumes, and I went down there, and I honestly knocked on their door, and I asked to speak to the director. I knew his name because I stalked him on the internet. And I just explained to them that I had just recently graduated. My goal was to be a feature film editor, and I would really value the opportunity to volunteer for their company to help them with whatever they needed, so that I could gain experience. And I mean, I know that they were a little bit freaked out, but you know, he said, okay, I'll get back to you in a week. And a week later, they let me volunteer. And 2 weeks after that, they started to pay me for my time. So it was something that was like very outside the box. And it took a little bit of like kind of like dropping everything that I was doing before and thinking about a different strategy. But it was helpful, and it did work out. And I would not have come to that decision had I not pivoted and been trying to do something else other than the job search. So I'm going to check in with Janet really quickly to see if we have any questions, and if not, I can just keep on chatting with these fun ladies here. But Janet, do we have any questions from the chat?
So thank you, Lauren. We just had a question come in on the private chat for our psychologists. What might be some signs beyond feeling stress in the job search that you might have symptoms that would suggest more help from a counselor or a psychologist beyond career?
That's a good question. And I'm glad that someone brought it up, because I think this is a time when many of us are thinking about exactly this, right? This is a time when a lot of people are feeling high levels of worry or high levels of sadness. And it's hard to know, is this just a reaction to what's going on, or is this something that I need support and help with? And some of the guidelines that we use are, if you can't settle yourself down, if your feelings of distress are keeping you from connecting with people who are important to you, or doing the things in your life that are important to take care of yourself, like eating or sleeping or getting work done, then it's probably worth consulting with someone at least to get a sense of whether there might be some therapeutic support that can help you learn to manage some of the distress that's going on right now. I don't know, Jen, would you add anything to that?
I think a lot of it echoes a lot of what we're talking about as it applies to the job search in general. I think having some compassion and kindness overall, in that this is going to be a very stressful time, and there is no sense of normal right now in that term. And so I think having some patience, even just with how we're understanding our responses to situations, knowing that we're not functioning under ideal circumstances at all. I have a group of coworkers that don't understand my work hours. We have, furry friends that like to join us. We have lots of different stressors, and we've all had to accommodate and adapt to ways that we had not anticipated. So I think it's being able to recognize what is a normal stressful response to unusual situations. And then, as Mary indicated, when it starts feeling like it's really getting in the way of accomplishing what we want to, being able to complete our work, being able to pay attention, we're not connecting with our friends. We are starting to isolate. Those are the moments where it is good to be able to reach out to a professional, even if it is just a consultation. I know many are providing even just brief check-ins through teletherapy, just to see and gauge, how are you functioning right now? What's happening for you?
Yeah, I do want to echo the availability of teletherapy. I think pretty much every mental health professional right now is providing teletherapy for new clients as well as existing clients. And as someone who does provide work, who does work this way, I'm actually quite surprised at how helpful it can be. I know some people are a little bit hesitant to reach out now if they're concerned about something, but it works really very well, and there's a lot that you can do via teletherapy. So I would not have anyone, I would encourage people not to resist reaching out for a consultation if they feel like it could help them answer the question of do I need more support, or what might I do? And I will say that insurers are paying for this now, even when they don't during normal times. They are paying for teletherapy now. So.
Good.
Thank you both. That's such a helpful piece. I guess my own question would be, there have been so many great tips and strategies shared today. If you could leave our listeners with just 1 or 2 pearls of wisdom to get through this time, how would you sum that up? What would the most important points be?
That's a really great and challenging question to think about, Janet. Thank you.
Absolutely, Janet.
I think really the 2 pieces for me that I really focus on, even as, I'm trying to think of what I personally try to think of in my life and how I'm navigating things, an awful lot of patience, like way, way more patience than ever I thought was possible to really, I'm not probably going to do the normal things I used to do, and I might not be as productive, and it might not look the same when I'm getting done. So an awful lot of patience to be able to think about all the ways that things have changed and how this job search for you may specifically be changing. And shoot, I forgot my second nugget. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But patience was a big one.
I love patience. I think patience is important. I was jotting down some notes as you were talking, Jen. You were jogging my thoughts on this, so thank you. But I sort of feel like there are 3 things we need to be doing to take care of ourselves during this time. I'm going to echo Jen's language here. All of us are having reactions to a really unusual time, right? And it's appropriate and normal for us to have big, strong reactions and to need a little bit of extra care. And I think when I think about what we can do to take care of ourselves, I think of 3 things. One is self-compassion, and we've been talking a lot about that. And I think Jen just really focused a lot about that. Like, pay attention to what you need and take care of yourself, and cut yourself some slack, and give yourself lots of praise for the things that you are getting done. Focus on that piece of your accomplishment. I think the second thing is to alter your expectations. This is an odd time. It's a really unusual time, and we have to shift our expectations. And I think the third is to just think about nurture. What are the things that you need to be able to have your bucket be filled enough to be able to work hard? I talk with my colleagues very often. We're all, teaching online and saying it feels twice as hard to teach online as it does in person. It feels twice as hard to do all the tasks now. I'm certain that's true for the job search as well, right? So what do you need to fuel yourself to be able to do these things that are harder than usual? Maybe it's something small like a virtual tea with friends. Maybe it's getting outside to exercise in a safe way if you can, or find ways to treat yourself. So I think be compassionate towards yourself, have expectations, and nurture yourself.
Thank you, Mary, because you hit my second one, so I appreciate that. It was the expectations, so thank
There
you.
We go.
You filled my bucket.
And thank you both. And I'll turn it back over to Lauren to wrap us up for today.
All right. Well, thank you to Mary and Jen for lending us your expertise in this area. And thank you everyone for attending our senior speaker series. So we'll leave you with, make sure that you remember that during this time, you want to be patient, you want to alter your expectations, and you want to get yourself what you need in order to get through this difficult time. So thank you all, and enjoy your Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay well.
Thank you.